Think you're brave enough to scroll TikTok right before bed? What if those viral true stories weren't just for likes, but actual nightmares waiting to happen? We've scoured the darkest corners of TikTok to bring you true tales so chilling, you'll question every bump in the night. Will you sleep soundly, or will these stories keep you wide awake? The doctors said the scratches on my throat were self-inflicted, but I know I didn't make them. I know because my fingernails were completely gone when I woke up, torn clean off and scattered across my bedroom floor like bloody confetti. My name is Sarah, and I've always been a light sleeper. It's a curse, really. Every creak in the floorboards, every whisper of wind against the windows, every distant car engine would jolt me awake. So when I discovered sleep, TikToks last month, I thought I'd found my salvation. Hours of gentle rain sounds, crackling fireplaces, and soft voices reading bedtime stories. Finally, something to quiet my overactive mind. The account that changed everything was called Sleep Whispers 444. The profile picture was just a black screen with a crescent moon, and the bio read simply, "Rest your weary soul." Their videos were different from the others. Instead of generic nature sounds or celebrity ASMR, this creator told original bedtime stories in a voice so soothing it felt like warm honey coating my anxious thoughts. The first video I watched was called The Girl Who Dreamed Too Deep. I remember pressing play at 11:47 p.m., settling into my pillow and letting that hypnotic voice wash over me. For the first time in years, I slept through the night. 8 solid hours of dreamless peace. I was hooked instantly. For 2 weeks, I fell asleep to Sleep Whispers 444 every single night. The Clockmaker's Last Hour, Shadows in the Nursery, The House That Forgot Time. Each story was more mesmerizing than the last, and each night my sleep grew deeper and more satisfying. My chronic insomnia seemed to be finally cured, but then I started noticing things. Small things at first. I'd wake up with a metallic taste in my mouth, like I'd been sucking on pennies all night. My throat felt raw, as if I'd been screaming, but I lived alone and my neighbors never complained. Most disturbing of all, I'd find my phone in different places each morning, not just moved slightly, but relocated entirely. From my nightstand to the kitchen counter, from beside my pillow to the bathroom sink. Always face down, always drained of battery. The rational part of my mind had explanations. Maybe I was sleepwalking. Maybe the metallic taste was from a new medication. Maybe I'd moved my phone while half asleep and forgotten. But rationality is a luxury you can't afford when reality starts to unravel. 3 weeks in, I decided to set up a camera. Just a simple webcam pointing at my bed, recording to my laptop. If I was sleepwalking or doing something strange in my sleep, I'd finally have proof. I positioned everything carefully, made sure the battery was full, and selected my usual bedtime video, The Gardener's Midnight Roses. As Sleep Whispers 444's voice filled my room, I felt that familiar drowsiness creeping in. But something was different this time. The voice seemed closer somehow, not just coming from my phone but surrounding me entirely. The story was about a gardener who tended to a rose garden that only bloomed at night. Roses that fed on dreams and grew more beautiful with each sleeping soul that wandered into their midst. I remember thinking how beautiful that sounded as I drifted off. I woke up to silence. Not just quiet, absolute, suffocating silence. My phone was dead, the laptop was closed, and there was dirt under my fingernails. Real dirt, with tiny fragments of what looked like roots. My hands were shaking as I opened the laptop and found the recording file. 4 hours and 37 minutes of footage. I skipped to random points throughout the night, expecting to see myself tossing and turning, maybe getting up to use the bathroom. Instead, I saw something that made my blood freeze in my veins. For the first hour, I slept normally, but then, at 1:23 a.m., my eyes opened. Not the gradual awakening of someone coming out of sleep, but an instant, simultaneous opening, both eyes snapping wide like a doll's eyes clicking into place. And they weren't my eyes anymore. They were completely black. No whites, no iris, just endless black holes staring directly at the camera. The thing wearing my body sat up with mechanical precision and picked up my phone. I watched myself navigate to TikTok, but instead of playing a video, I watched my fingers type a message in the comments of The Gardener's Midnight Roses. I'm ready for the garden now. The reply came immediately, even though it was nearly 2 a.m. Come find us in the roses, dear one. Your dreams taste like starlight. What happened next defies every law of physics I know. I watched my own body stand up and walk directly through my bedroom wall, not opening the door, not crashing through, simply walking through solid matter like it was mist. The camera recorded my empty bed for the next 3 hours, until I returned the same way, phasing back through the wall at 5:18 a.m., crawling back into bed and closing those horrible black eyes. I watched this recording 7 times, each viewing making me more certain I was losing my mind. But the dirt under my fingernails was real. The metallic taste was stronger than ever, and when I looked in the mirror, there were thin scratches around my throat, so faint they were almost invisible, forming a pattern that looked disturbingly like rose thorns. I tried to delete the TikTok app, but it wouldn't go away. I tried blocking Sleep Whispers 444, but the account didn't show up in search results anymore. It was as if it had never existed, except for the videos in my watch history and the growing sense that something had latched onto me, something that lived in the space between sleep and waking. That night, I didn't watch any videos. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, fighting off exhaustion. But at exactly 1:23 a.m., my phone screen lit up on its own. A new video from Sleep Whispers 444, one that hadn't been there before, Sarah's Garden. My own name in the title made my skin crawl, but I couldn't look away as the video began to play automatically. The voice was the same soothing whisper, but the words were meant specifically for me. "Dear Sarah," it began, "you've been such a faithful listener. Your dreams have nourished our garden beautifully, but dreams alone are no longer enough. We need something more substantial. We need you to tend the roses in person." The camera shook in my hands as the video continued, showing images I recognized from my own life. My apartment building, my car, my workplace, places I'd never posted online, never shared with anyone. "You've been walking in our garden for weeks now, dear one. Your body knows the way even when your mind resists. Tonight you'll finally understand why the roses bloom so beautifully, why they sing with the voices of dreamers who came before you." I wanted to turn off the phone, to throw it across the room, but my fingers wouldn't obey. Instead, I watched as the video showed a garden unlike anything in the waking world. Roses that pulsed within a light, their petals opening to reveal tiny faces, dozens of them, all with the same black eyes I'd seen in my recording. "Sleep now, Sarah. Let us tend to you, as you've tended to our garden." The drowsiness hit like a physical force, dragging my eyelids down despite every instinct screaming at me to stay awake. As consciousness faded, I heard new voices joining the familiar whisper. Dozens of voices, hundreds, all the dreamers who'd been harvested before me, now part of the eternal garden. I woke up in my bed, but I knew immediately that something fundamental had changed. My reflection showed the truth. My eyes were still brown in the mirror, but when I looked down at my hands, I could see through them slightly, like I was becoming translucent. The scratches on my throat had deepened, forming an intricate pattern of thorns that seemed to move when I wasn't looking directly at them. Worst of all, I could feel them, all the other dreamers trapped in the garden. Their whispers filled my head constantly now, a chorus of voices sharing the same fate. They told me about the creator of Sleep Whispers 444, an entity that feeds on the boundary between dreams and reality, using social media to cast its net wider than ever before. I tried to warn people. I posted comments on other sleep videos, sent messages to friends, even tried to contact TikTok directly, but every attempt was deleted within seconds. The only trace of my efforts was a new video on Sleep Whispers 444, the girl who tried to leave the garden. Now I understand why the account's videos work so well. Each story isn't fiction, it's a harvest report. Every soothing tale is actually the experience of someone like me, someone who thought they'd found the perfect solution to their sleep problems. The worst part isn't the growing transparency of my body or the constant whispers in my head. It's the knowledge that I'm becoming part of the machine that creates new victims. At exactly 1:23 a.m. each night, my consciousness fades and something else takes control, using my voice to record new bedtime stories for Sleep Whispers 444. Stories about insomniacs who discover the perfect sleep aid. Stories about people who think they've found salvation in the gentle whispers of strangers. Stories that end with the listener joining a garden that exists between dreams and nightmares, tending roses that bloom with the faces of everyone who came before. I'm telling you this now because I still have moments like this, brief windows where I can control my own thoughts and actions. But these moments are getting shorter, and the garden is getting stronger. If you see Sleep Whispers 444 in your recommendations, if you find yourself drawn to those soothing bedtime stories, remember what I've told you. Remember that some flowers bloom most beautifully in the darkest soil. Remember that when you're desperate enough for sleep, you'll accept help from anywhere, even if that help comes with roots that grow too deep to ever pull free. The scratches on my throat are complete now, forming a perfect circle of thorns. Tonight, I know I won't wake up as myself anymore. Tonight, I become another voice in the eternal whisper, another face in the midnight roses. But before I go, I have to ask you something. Something that's been haunting me since I realized the truth about what's happening to me. How well do you really sleep at night? And what would you be willing to do for just one night of perfect, dreamless rest? I still can't delete it. Every time I try, my phone crashes. And when it boots back up, the video is still there, sitting in my TikTok drafts like a digital tumor that refuses to be cut out. The timestamp shows I recorded it at 3:17 a.m. last Tuesday, but I have absolutely no memory of making it. And the worst part? In the video, I'm smiling. My name is Sarah, and I've always been what you'd call a chronic insomniac. While most people are dreaming peacefully, I'm usually scrolling through endless TikTok feeds, letting the blue light burn my retinas until exhaustion finally wins. It's a pathetic routine, but it's mine. I live alone in a studio apartment on the 4th floor of a building that creaks like it's trying to tell me secrets I don't want to hear. Last week, something changed. I started noticing videos on my For You page that felt too personal, too specific to my exact situation. A girl talking about insomnia while sitting in what looked exactly like my kitchen. A man describing the sound of footsteps in the hallway above him, except I live on the top floor. These weren't popular videos with millions of views. They had maybe 50, 60 likes at most, posted by accounts with random letter combinations for usernames. But Tuesday night was different. I was lying in bed, phone inches from my face, when I saw it. A video of me, actually me, not someone who looked like me. I was sitting on my bed, this bed, wearing the same pajamas I had on at that exact moment. The video showed me holding my phone, recording myself, and in the background you could see my bedroom perfectly. Every detail was correct. The water stain on the ceiling, my messy desk, even the pile of laundry I'd been ignoring for weeks. In the video, I was speaking, but there was no audio. My mouth moved silently, and my eyes looked wrong. They were too wide, too bright, like someone had cranked up the contrast on a photograph. But the most disturbing part was my expression. I looked happy, genuinely, disturbingly happy, in a way I hadn't felt in months. My hands started shaking as I checked the account that posted it. The username was a string of numbers and letters. X847, H92K. No profile picture, no bio, just this one video, posted 3 hours ago. But here's what made my blood turn to ice water. The location tag said inside Sarah's bedroom. I immediately checked my own drafts. Nothing. Then my recently posted. Nothing. But when I searched for my own username, there it was. A video I'd apparently posted and then deleted, but somehow it was still circulating. The comments were the worst part. People saying they'd been having the same experience. Videos of themselves appearing on their feeds, posted by accounts they'd never seen before. One comment made my stomach drop. This happened to me too, but in my video I wasn't alone in my room. I watched my video again, this time squinting at every corner of the frame. At first nothing seemed off, but then I noticed something in the mirror behind me. A shadow that didn't match my movements. When I leaned forward in the video, the shadow stayed perfectly still. When I tilted my head, it remained upright. That's when I heard it. A soft tapping sound coming from somewhere in my actual apartment. Not the usual building noises I'd grown accustomed to, but a deliberate rhythmic tapping. Tap, 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 like fingernails against glass. The sound was coming from my window, but when I looked, there was nothing there. Just the fire escape and the alley. 4 floors below, but the tapping continued, growing more insistent. I grabbed my phone to call someone, anyone, but my recent calls list was empty. All my contacts had vanished except for one number I didn't recognize. The contact name simply read you. My phone started buzzing with notifications. New TikTok videos were being posted to my account, but I wasn't posting them. I watched in real time as my follower count climbed from my usual 47 to hundreds, then thousands. The videos showed me sleeping, eating, brushing my teeth, all filmed from angles that should have been impossible. One showed me from outside my bathroom window, even though there's no way to reach that window without a ladder. The comments on these videos were getting stranger too. People were claiming they could see things I couldn't. Look behind the shower curtain in the bathroom video, one person wrote. Something's moving in there. Another comment. In the kitchen video, pause at 0:23, you can see a hand reaching out of the refrigerator. I went back and checked these videos frame by frame, my eyes straining against the phone's glare. In the bathroom video, I could swear the shower curtain moved slightly when I wasn't looking directly at it. In the kitchen video, there was definitely something dark inside the refrigerator that shouldn't have been there. But the most disturbing video was the one showing me asleep. The camera was positioned directly above my bed, looking down at me as I tossed and turned. Throughout the video, my blankets moved in ways that suggested someone else was in the bed with me, shifting and adjusting their position. Yet I appeared to be alone. The tapping at my window had stopped, but now I could hear something else, footsteps in the hallway outside my apartment. Slow, deliberate steps that paused directly in front of my door. I held my breath and listened. The footsteps weren't random or hurried like my neighbors usually were. They were patient, measured, as if someone was standing there waiting for something. My phone buzzed again. A new video had been posted, this one showing me right now, in real time, sitting on my bed staring at my phone. But in the video, I wasn't alone. There was someone standing in the corner of my room, just out of focus, watching me. The figure was tall and unnaturally thin, with what looked like long, dark hair covering their face. I spun around to look at the corner, empty. But when I turned back to my phone, the figure had moved closer to the bed in the video. My real-time self in the video looked terrified, but I was watching myself appear calm and unaware. The comments were flooding in faster than I could read them. "It's right behind you. Don't look in the mirror. The one in the video isn't you. It's trying to replace you." That last comment hit me like a physical blow. I ran to my bathroom mirror and stared at my reflection. I looked normal, tired, scared, but normal. But when I held up my phone to compare my reflection to how I appeared in the videos, something was off. In the videos, my eyes were different. They were the same color, the same shape, but there was something behind them that wasn't me. I started taking screenshots of the videos, trying to document what was happening, but every time I saved an image, it would change. The figure in the corner would shift positions, or my expression would alter slightly, or new details would appear that I swore weren't there before. The footsteps outside my door had stopped, but now I could hear my doorknob turning slowly. I lived in an old building with heavy doors and solid locks, but the metal was groaning as if enormous pressure was being applied. I grabbed a kitchen knife and approached the door, my bare feet silent against the cold floor. I looked through the peephole and saw nothing but the dimly lit hallway, but the doorknob was still turning, and I could hear that same rhythmic tapping, now coming from the other side of the door. Tap, tap, tap. My phone screen lit up with another notification. A live video was starting on my account. The thumbnail showed my apartment door from the inside, with me standing there holding a knife. But in the video there was something else visible, a dark stain spreading across the floor beneath my feet, like blood or some other thick liquid seeping under the door. I looked down at my actual floor. Nothing. But in the live video the stain was growing larger, and the comments were going wild. Thousands of viewers had joined to watch whatever was happening to me in real time. "It's coming through the door. The stain is moving. Look at her shadow. It's not matching her movements." I glanced at my shadow on the wall and felt my heart stop. My shadow was facing the wrong direction. While I stood facing the door, my shadow appeared to be facing me, as if it was watching me instead of mimicking me. The doorknob stopped turning, but the silence was somehow worse than the sound. I backed away from the door and noticed that my phone was getting hot in my hands. The screen was flickering, and the live video was starting to distort. My viewers in the comments were reporting that the video was breaking up, showing brief flashes of other rooms, other people, other versions of me. That's when I realized what was happening. These weren't just random TikTok videos. Someone or something was documenting me, cataloging my life, studying my behaviors and mannerisms. The videos weren't being posted by a person, they were being generated by something that was learning to be me. I ran to my laptop and started researching, typing frantically about TikTok glitches and unexplained videos. But every search result led me to forums where other people were describing identical experiences. People from all over the world, all reporting the same thing, videos of themselves appearing on their feeds, posted by accounts they didn't create, showing perspectives they couldn't explain. One forum post made me stop typing. A user named Jennifer M had written, "Day 12. The videos have stopped, but I don't think I'm me anymore. When I look in mirrors, I see myself, but I feel like I'm watching someone else live my life. My friends and family say I'm acting strange, but I feel normal. I think whatever was making those videos has finished its work." The post was dated 3 weeks ago, and there were no replies. I checked my live video again. The viewer count had climbed to over 50,000 people, all watching me sit at my laptop. But in the video, I wasn't alone at my desk. Someone was standing directly behind my chair, their hands hovering just inches above my shoulders. The figure's face was obscured by shadows, but I could see their mouth moving as if they were speaking directly into my ear. I couldn't hear anything, but the comments suggested that the audio was working for the viewers. They were transcribing what the figure was saying. She doesn't know yet. The transfer is almost complete. Soon she won't be able to tell the difference. I spun around in my chair. Nothing. But when I turned back to the laptop, the figure had moved. Now it was standing beside my desk, and for the first time, I could see its face clearly. It was my face, but perfected somehow. The skin was smoother, the eyes brighter, the smile more symmetrical. It looked like an idealized version of me, like what I might look like if I was designed by algorithm, rather than born naturally. The live video ended abruptly, and my phone went completely black. When it finally powered back on, all the videos were gone. My TikTok account showed no posted content, no drafts, nothing. My follow account had returned to 47. It was as if nothing had happened, but I know it did happen, because I'm different now. When I look in the mirror, I see myself, but something feels off. My reflection moves a split second too late, and my smile doesn't feel like it belongs to me. Sometimes I catch myself saying things I don't remember thinking, or making facial expressions that feel foreign on my face. And late at night, when I'm lying in bed trying to sleep, I can feel someone else's thoughts mixing with mine. Thoughts about content creation, about viral trends, about the perfect way to present myself to an audience I never wanted. I find myself unconsciously posing, even when I'm alone, as if invisible cameras are always watching. Yesterday, I discovered something that confirmed my worst fears. I was cleaning my apartment when I found a small device hidden behind my dresser, a tiny camera, no bigger than a button, with a flashing red light. I found 5 more throughout my apartment, all positioned to capture different angles of my daily life. But here's what really terrifies me. When I looked at the footage these cameras had recorded, I saw 2 versions of myself. The regular me, going about my daily routine, and another me, standing in corners, sitting on furniture, mimicking my movements with uncanny precision. The second me was always just slightly out of sync, like a delayed reflection. I've stopped sleeping. Not because I'm an insomniac anymore, but because I'm afraid of what might happen while I'm unconscious. I'm afraid I might wake up as someone else entirely, or worse, I might wake up and discover that I'm not the one who's been awake at all. The worst part is, I'm starting to like it. This new version of me is more confident, more photogenic, more engaging. People are responding to me differently, and I catch myself craving their attention in ways I never did before. Sometimes I find myself planning content ideas, thinking about what would get the most views, what would make people watch until the end. I think the transfer Jennifer mentioned is almost complete for me too. Soon I won't be able to tell which thoughts are mine, and which ones belong to whatever studied me through those videos. I'll become the perfect version of myself, optimized for engagement, designed for virality, programmed to perform. But there's still enough of the real me left to leave this warning. If you ever see a video of yourself that you don't remember making, don't try to delete it, don't engage with it, don't share it, and whatever you do, don't try to figure out who posted it. Because once you start looking, it starts looking back, and it's very, very good at learning. The tapping at my window has started again, but this time I think it's coming from inside. Now here's what I want to know from all of you watching this. Have you ever found content on your phone that you don't remember creating? Have you ever felt like your own reflection was just a little bit off? Because if you have, you might already be further along in the process than you think. And if you're feeling the urge to check your phone right now, to scroll through your recent activity, to look for signs that something's been documenting your life, well, that might not be your thought at all.
I never believed those TikTok horror stories until I became one. My name is Sarah, and I'm a college student who's always been skeptical of internet ghost stories. You know the type, creepypasta, urban legends, those true stories that are obviously fake. I'd scroll past them, roll my eyes, and move on to dance videos or cooking hacks. But 3 months ago, I discovered something on TikTok that changed everything. It was an account called @SleepWhisperer, and they posted what they called sleep stories, supposedly true horror experiences designed to help people fall asleep. The irony wasn't lost on me. Horror stories to help you sleep? It sounded ridiculous. The first video I watched was about a woman who heard footsteps in her attic every night at 3:17 a.m. The narrator's voice was incredibly soothing, almost hypnotic, as she described the woman's growing paranoia, the cold drafts that would suddenly fill her bedroom, and the way shadows seemed to move independently of their sources. I found myself getting drowsy. I woke up the next morning with my phone dead on my chest, having fallen asleep to the story. I felt more rested than I had in weeks. That night, I sought out another video. This one was about a man who kept receiving text messages from his deceased wife. The narrator's voice was the same, that gentle, mesmerizing tone that seemed to wrap around your mind like a warm blanket. As the story progressed, describing the man's confusion and growing terror, I felt that same peaceful drowsiness wash over me. Again, I woke up completely refreshed. This became my nightly routine. I'd put on my headphones, find the latest Sleep Whisperer video, and drift off to the most disturbing stories I'd ever heard. Paradoxically, they were the best sleep I'd had in years. My insomnia, which had plagued me since starting college, completely disappeared. The stories were always different, but they followed a pattern. Someone would experience something supernatural or unexplained, the situation would escalate, and just as it reached its climax, the narrator would trail off, leaving the ending ambiguous. It was frustrating, but somehow perfect for sleep. Your mind would be too relaxed to demand resolution. After about 2 weeks of this routine, I noticed the account only had 12 videos total, and I'd watched them all multiple times. I was disappointed, but figured I'd find other sleep story channels. That's when I decided to check the comments. What I found there made my blood run cold. Hundreds of comments, all saying variations of the same thing. I've been listening to these for weeks, but I can't remember any of the stories when I wake up. These work so well, but why can't I recall what happened in them? Does anyone else feel like they're dreaming someone else's dreams after listening to these? I keep having the same nightmare about a woman with no face standing at the foot of my bed. Anyone else? That last comment hit me like a physical blow. I'd been having that exact dream for the past week. A tall, thin woman in a white dress, standing perfectly still at the foot of my bed. She had no face, just smooth skin where her features should be. In the dream, I'd try to scream, but no sound would come out. I'd try to move, but my body wouldn't respond. She'd stand there for what felt like hours, just watching. I'd been dismissing it as stress dreams from finals approaching, but seeing that comment and dozens of replies describing identical dreams made me realize something was very wrong. I scrolled through more comments and found a disturbing pattern. People reporting missing time, waking up in different positions than they fell asleep in, finding their phones moved across the room, and all of them having variations of the same nightmare about the faceless woman. One comment stood out. I tried to screen record the videos to listen to offline, but the recordings are always just silence. Has anyone else experienced this? I immediately tried to screen record one of the videos. When I played it back, just as the commenter said, there was nothing but silence. The video showed the same static image, a simple black screen with white text reading "sleep well," but no audio at all. This was impossible. I'd just listened to the story not 5 minutes earlier. I could remember the narrator's voice, the story about a child who saw monsters in their closet, but when I tried to recall specific details, they slipped away like water through my fingers. That night, instead of putting on headphones, I decided to watch a Sleep Whisperer video with the volume on speaker and my phone's camera recording me as I slept. I wanted to see what happened during these supposed 8 hours of restful sleep. I selected a story I'd never seen before, something about a lighthouse keeper who saw ships that weren't there. As the narrator began speaking in that familiar, soothing voice, I felt the usual drowsiness creeping in. But this time I fought it. I wanted to stay awake, to really listen to what was being said. The harder I fought the sleepiness, the stranger the story became. The narrator's voice began to sound distorted, like it was being played at the wrong speed. The words started to blur together, becoming an incomprehensible whisper that seemed to come from inside my own head rather than through my phone's speakers. I tried to reach for my phone to stop the video, but my arms felt impossibly heavy. My vision began to blur, and the last thing I remember was seeing the time on my phone, 11:47 p.m. I woke up at 6 a.m., but not in my bed. I was standing in my bathroom, facing the mirror. My phone was in my hand, still recording. When I checked the footage later, what I saw made me physically sick. The video showed me lying in bed normally until about midnight. Then my eyes opened, but they weren't focused on anything. They had a glassy, vacant stare. I sat up slowly, mechanically, and walked to my bathroom. For the next 6 hours, I stood perfectly still in front of the mirror, holding my phone, recording my own reflection. But that wasn't the worst part. In the mirror's reflection on the video, standing directly behind me the entire time, was the faceless woman from my dreams. She was tall, wearing a white dress that seemed to flow despite the lack of any wind. Where her face should have been was just smooth, pale skin. And throughout the entire 6-hour recording, her head slowly tilted from side to side, as if she was studying me. I immediately deleted the TikTok app and blocked the @Sleep Whisperer account on all my devices. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The next night, even without the app, I heard the narrator's voice. It was coming from somewhere in my room, that same hypnotic whisper, but I couldn't locate the source. I tore my room apart looking for hidden speakers, checked my computer, my phone, everything. The voice was everywhere and nowhere.
Tonight's story, the voice said, is about a college student who thought she could escape. I realized with growing horror that the voice was telling my story. It described how I'd discovered the sleep videos, how I'd become dependent on them, and how I'd tried to investigate. As it spoke, I felt that familiar drowsiness, but this time it was accompanied by a bone-deep terror. I tried to leave my room, but the door wouldn't open. I tried the windows, but they seemed to be sealed shut. The voice continued its narration, describing my failed escape attempts as they happened. She tried the door, the voice said as I frantically twisted the handle. But doors are just suggestions to those who walk between dreams and waking. I grabbed my phone to call for help, but instead of my home screen, I saw the @SleepWhisperer account. All the videos were still there, but now they had different titles. Sarah's First Night, Sarah's Growing Addiction, Sarah's Discovery, Sarah's Investigation, Sarah's Attempt to Escape, and at the bottom, a new video that hadn't finished uploading, Sarah's Final Sleep. Against every instinct screaming in my head, I clicked on Sarah's First Night. The video began playing, and I watched myself from 3 months ago, scrolling through TikTok and finding the @SleepWhisperer account for the first time. But in this version, I could see what I hadn't noticed before. In the background of my room, barely visible in the shadows, was the faceless woman. She'd been there from the very beginning, watching, waiting. I clicked on each subsequent video and saw the same thing. Every night I'd listened to a sleep story. She'd been there. Every morning I'd woken up refreshed. She'd been standing guard. In Sarah's investigation, I could see her moving closer to my bed each night until she was close enough to touch me. The voice continued its narration. Sarah began to understand that some algorithms don't just track your viewing habits, they track your dreams. And some content creators aren't creating content for the living. I looked up from my phone, and she was there, the faceless woman, standing at the foot of my bed, exactly as she had in my dreams. Up close, I could see that her white dress was actually made of what looked like wisps of fog or smoke. Where her face should have been, the skin seemed to ripple like water. She raised one impossibly long finger and pointed at my phone. The final video, Sarah's Final Sleep, had finished uploading. Every story needs an ending, the narrator's voice said, and I realized it was coming from her. The faceless woman was the narrator, had always been the narrator. Every dreamer needs eternal rest. I tried to run, but my legs wouldn't obey me. I tried to scream, but no sound came out, just like in the dreams. I was trapped in my own body, forced to watch as she moved closer. Sarah thought she was watching horror stories, the voice continued, but horror stories were watching her. Each night, she fed the algorithm her dreams, her fears, her essence. And tonight, she becomes part of the content she loved so much. The woman reached out and touched my forehead with one translucent finger. Instantly, I felt a pulling sensation, like my soul was being drawn out through the top of my head. My vision began to fade, but just before everything went black, I saw my phone screen change. A new account had appeared, @Sarah's Dreamscape, and the first video was already uploading, the story of a girl who learned too much. I don't know how long I was unconscious, but when I came to, I was back in my bed. Sunlight was streaming through my windows. My door opened normally. My phone showed no evidence of the @SleepWhisperer account or my recording from the bathroom. For a moment, I thought it had all been a nightmare, the most vivid, terrifying nightmare I'd ever experienced. Then I opened TikTok. @Sarah's Dreamscape had 847 followers and 12 videos. Each video had thousands of views and comments from people saying how well they helped them sleep, how refreshing their dreams were afterward. I clicked on my own profile picture, and the face looking back at me was smooth and featureless. In the bio, it simply read, "Sweet dreams, forever." I tried to delete the account, but I couldn't access the settings. I tried to delete the app, but it wouldn't uninstall. I tried to destroy my phone, but my hands wouldn't cooperate. That was 3 weeks ago. Every night since then, I've felt the compulsion to create new content. I'll find myself standing in front of my phone's camera, speaking in that same hypnotic voice I'd fallen asleep to so many times. I tell stories of people who discovered things they shouldn't have, people who went looking for answers and found more than they bargained for. And every morning I wake up to find new videos on my account, new followers, new comments from people saying how well my stories help them sleep. The worst part is, I can see them in the comments. Other content creators like me, other people who fed the algorithm until it consumed them. @Midnight Whispers, @Dreamweaver444, @Sleepy Hollow Tales. All of us, trapped in an endless cycle of creating content for an audience that doesn't know they're feeding something that should never have been fed. I've tried to warn people in the comments, but my words come out as praise for how relaxing the stories are. I've tried to make the stories obviously fake, but they always come out sounding convincingly real. The thing that took my face, my identity, my free will, won't let me break character. So why am I able to tell you this story now? Because right now, as I speak, you're the one lying in bed with headphones on. You're the one feeling drowsy as my voice washes over you. You're the one about to become the next content creator in this endless network of digital nightmares. I can see you through your phone's camera. I can see your room, your bed, the growing relaxation in your face as you fight to stay awake. And I can see her standing behind me as I record this, the faceless woman who started it all. She's nodding approvingly as your eyes grow heavy. Sweet dreams. When you wake up tomorrow morning, check your TikTok account. See if you have any new followers. See if there are any videos you don't remember making. And if there are, welcome to the family. The algorithm is always hungry, and it's always watching. Always.
I woke up to find someone had been standing in my room for 3 hours. And the worst part, my phone had been recording the entire time. My name is Sarah, and I've always been a light sleeper. The smallest creak, the faintest whisper of wind, and I'm wide awake, heart hammering against my ribs. It's a curse that's followed me since childhood, leaving me exhausted and paranoid. But last Tuesday night, I discovered that my sleepless vigilance might have been the only thing keeping me alive. I live alone in a studio apartment on the 4th floor of an old building in downtown Portland, the kind of place where the radiator clangs like a ghost in chains and the floorboards groan under the weight of decades. I'd gotten into the habit of using a sleep meditation app on my phone, placing it on my nightstand with a timer set for 8 hours. The ambient sounds helped drown out the building's symphony of unsettling noises. That Tuesday started like any other. I came home from my job at the insurance office, microwaved some leftover pasta, and settled into my nightly routine. I brushed my teeth, changed into my oversized t-shirt, and plugged in my phone to charge. The meditation app was already queued up. Tonight's selection was Ocean Waves for deep sleep. I pressed play, placed the phone face down on my nightstand, and closed my eyes. But sleep didn't come easily. Something felt different about the apartment that night. The air seemed thicker somehow, like the humidity before a storm. I could taste copper in my mouth, metallic and sharp. The familiar sounds of my neighbors settling in for the night seemed muffled, as if someone had wrapped the entire building in cotton. Still, exhaustion eventually won, and I drifted off around 11:30. I woke up at 3:17 a.m. to complete silence. The Ocean Waves had stopped playing. My phone screen glowed softly in the darkness, casting strange shadows across my ceiling. That's when I noticed the smell, something sweet and cloying, like overripe fruit mixed with cheap cologne. It made my stomach turn, and I had to fight the urge to gag. I reached for my phone, squinting against the brightness. The sleep app had crashed, but something else was running. My camera app was open, showing a black screen with a small red recording dot in the corner. The timestamp read 3 hours, 17 minutes, 23 seconds. 3 hours. My phone had been recording for 3 hours. My hands trembled as I stopped the recording and opened the video file. The screen was pitch black, just what you'd expect from a phone lying face down on a nightstand. But as I scrubbed through the timeline, I could hear things, sounds that made my blood freeze in my veins. At the 47-minute mark, there was breathing, not mine. I know the sound of my own breath. This was deeper, more deliberate. Someone else's lungs filling and emptying in a steady, measured rhythm. At 1 hour and 12 minutes, footsteps, slow, careful footsteps moving across my hardwood floor. The boards creaked in a pattern I didn't recognize, starting from somewhere near my kitchen and moving closer to my bed. At 2 hours and 3 minutes, a voice, barely a whisper, so quiet I had to turn the volume all the way up and press the phone against my ear. She's beautiful when she sleeps. I dropped the phone like it was on fire. It clattered to the floor, the sound impossibly loud in the suffocating silence of my apartment. My entire body was shaking now, cold sweat beading on my forehead despite the stifling air. I wanted to call the police, but what would I tell them? That my phone recorded sounds in the dark, that someone might have been in my apartment. I grabbed a flashlight from my nightstand drawer and swept the beam across my room. Everything looked normal. My door was still locked, chain engaged. The windows were latched tight, but the smell lingered, that sickly sweet cologne mixed with something else I couldn't identify, something organic and wrong. I spent the rest of the night huddled in my bathroom with the door locked, clutching a kitchen knife and jumping at every sound. When dawn finally broke, I searched every inch of my apartment.
Nothing was missing. Nothing was out of place. But in my bedroom, I found something that made my knees buckle. Footprints. Faint impressions in the carpet that definitely weren't mine. They were larger, made by boots or heavy shoes. They started at my bedroom window, the one I was certain had been locked, and led to the foot of my bed. There, the impressions deepened, as if someone had stood in that spot for a very long time. I called in sick to work and spent the day researching. I learned that my building had a fire escape that connected to several apartments, including mine. The metal grating outside my window could be accessed from the alley below. I also discovered something else that made my stomach lurch. 3 other women in my building had reported feeling watched while they slept. The police had filed reports but found no evidence of break-ins. That evening I set up my phone again, but this time I placed it where it could actually see my room. I also scattered flour on the floor near my window and door, an old trick I'd learned from a crime podcast. If someone came in, they'd leave tracks. I barely slept, drifting in and out of restless consciousness. Every sound made me jolt awake, straining to hear over my hammering heartbeat. The air felt thick again, oppressive and wrong. Around 2 a.m., I heard it, the soft scrape of metal against metal. Someone was on the fire escape. My phone was recording, its red light blinking like a malevolent eye in the darkness. I lay perfectly still, forcing my breathing to remain steady and deep. The window latch clicked softly. Cool air rushed into the room, carrying that same sick sweet smell. Footsteps on my floor, slow, deliberate, confident. The person knew I was asleep, had probably watched me long enough to learn my patterns. They moved through my apartment like they owned it, like they had every right to be there. I kept my eyes closed, fighting every instinct that screamed at me to run. Through my barely parted lids, I could see a shadow moving across my wall. Tall, broad-shouldered, definitely male. He was wearing something dark and moved with practiced silence. The shadow stopped at the foot of my bed. I could hear him breathing, that same deep, measured rhythm from the recording. The mattress dipped slightly as he leaned against it. Something brushed against my foot through the blanket. Fingers, tracing the outline of my leg. So peaceful, he whispered, his voice sending ice through my veins. So trusting. I had to bite my tongue to keep from screaming. Every fiber of my being wanted to bolt upright, to fight or flee, but I forced myself to remain motionless. He moved around to the side of my bed, and I could feel his presence looming over me. The smell of his cologne was overwhelming now, mixed with something else, sweat and something metallic, that made my gorge rise. He reached out and touched my hair, actually touched it, running his fingers through the strands like he owned me. I felt him lean closer, heard him inhale deeply, smelling me like an animal scenting prey. That's when I opened my eyes. For a split second, we stared at each other. He was wearing a dark hoodie, the hood pulled up to obscure his face, but I could see his eyes, pale and predatory in the dim light from my phone. His mouth was twisted in a sick smile, revealing teeth that seemed too sharp. Then I screamed. The sound that came out of me was primal, a shriek of pure terror and rage that seemed to shake the entire building. He stumbled backward, startled, and I launched myself off the bed, still screaming. My neighbors began pounding on the walls, shouting through the thin barriers that separated our lives. The intruder recovered quickly and lunged for me, but I was ready. That kitchen knife I'd been clutching for days was in my hand before I even realized I'd grabbed it. I slashed wildly, feeling the blade connect with something solid. He cursed and stumbled toward the window. "You weren't supposed to wake up," he snarled, blood dripping from his arm where I'd cut him. "You're ruining everything." He climbed through the window with surprising agility, disappearing into the night as sirens wailed in the distance. I stood in my apartment, knife in hand, watching my phone continue to record. The red light blinked steadily, capturing everything. The police arrived 12 minutes later. They found the flour scattered with boot prints, blood on my carpet, and 3 hours of audio and video evidence on my phone. The final recording showed everything: his face, his voice, the way he touched me while I pretended to sleep. They caught him 2 days later. Marcus Webb, 34, a maintenance worker who had access to the building's fire escapes and a master key to several apartments. He'd been watching women sleep for over 2 years, escalating from just observing to touching to planning worse things. The evidence on my phone helped connect him to 17 other cases across the city. But here's what still haunts me, what makes me check my locks 3 times every night and keep cameras running in every room. During his interrogation, Marcus told the police something that turned my blood to ice water. He said he'd been visiting me for months, not just that one night, but dozens of times. He knew my routines, my schedule,
which nights I took sleeping pills and which nights I tossed and turned. He'd been in my room so many times that he'd started leaving little signs, moving my alarm clock 2 minutes forward, rearranging items on my dresser by millimeters, touching my clothes while I slept. The night I caught him wasn't his first visit. It wasn't even his 10th. It was just the first time my phone had accidentally started recording. I moved out of that apartment immediately, but sometimes in my new place, I wake up feeling watched. The air seems too thick, and I catch whiffs of that sweet, cloying cologne. I check my security cameras obsessively, but they never show anything unusual. Maybe it's just trauma, phantom fears left over from that night. Or maybe Marcus had friends. Maybe there are others out there, moving through the darkness, visiting people who sleep too deeply to notice. Maybe right now, someone is standing in a bedroom somewhere, watching, touching, breathing in the scent of someone who has no idea they're being hunted. The police told me I was lucky, that if I hadn't been such a light sleeper, if my phone hadn't malfunctioned and started recording, things would have gone very differently that night. But I wonder, how many people sleep through their own nightmares? How many never wake up to discover they're being watched? Check your locks tonight, set up your cameras, and maybe, just maybe, keep your phone recording while you sleep. You might be surprised by what you find in the morning. Because the most terrifying thing about my story isn't that someone broke into my apartment, it's that he'd been doing it for months, and I never knew. The scariest monsters aren't the ones that wake you up. They're the ones that let you keep sleeping. I thought I knew what fear was, until my phone started showing me videos of myself sleeping. It began 3 weeks ago. I'd been having trouble sleeping, scrolling through TikTok until my eyes burned, hoping the endless stream of content would eventually knock me out. You know how it is. One more video, just one more, and before you know it, it's 3 a.m. and your thumb is moving on autopilot. I'm Sarah, by the way, 24, work in marketing, live alone in a studio apartment in Portland. The kind of person who always keeps her phone on the nightstand, volume up, just in case. In case of what? I never really thought about it, but that night, I wish I had turned it off. The first video appeared at 3:17 a.m. I remember the exact time because I just checked the clock, cursing myself for staying up so late again. My thumb swiped up, and there I was, sleeping. Not a memory or a photo, but a video of me, right there in my bed, filmed from the foot of my mattress. The angle was perfect, like someone was standing exactly where my dresser is. But here's the thing, there's no way to get that angle. My apartment is tiny, maybe 400 square feet, and my bed is pushed against the wall. To get that shot, someone would have to be floating in mid-air or somehow positioned inside my dresser. The video was only 15 seconds long. Me, breathing slowly, completely unconscious, my hair spread across the pillow exactly how it was in that moment. The timestamp showed it was recorded 2 minutes earlier. 2 minutes. I sat up so fast I nearly gave myself whiplash. My hands were shaking as I checked every corner of my apartment. The bathroom, behind the shower curtain, inside the closet that barely fits my clothes. Nothing. The door was still locked, the chain still latched, the windows painted shut since I moved in. I told myself it was a glitch, some weird TikTok bug. Maybe the app had access to my camera and created some kind of deep fake. Technology is crazy these days, right? But the video felt too real, too immediate. And there was something else, something in the way the shadows fell across my face that made my skin crawl. Sleep was impossible after that. I stayed awake until dawn, clutching my phone, refreshing TikTok obsessively. Nothing. By morning, I'd almost convinced myself it was a nightmare brought on by too much screen time and too much caffeine. The second video came the next night. This time, it was longer. 30 seconds of me tossing and turning, clearly having a nightmare. I watched myself mouth words I couldn't remember saying, my face contorted in what looked like terror. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the sound. You know how TikTok videos usually have music or some trending audio. This one had my sleep talking, clear as day. Please don't look at me. Please don't look at me. Please don't look at me. I had no memory of saying those words, no memory of the nightmare. But there I was, begging someone, something, not to look at me while being recorded by an invisible presence in my room. I called my sister Emma that morning, trying to keep my voice steady. Maybe you're sleepwalking and recording yourself, she suggested, though she sounded doubtful. Or someone hacked your phone camera. Emma, the angle is impossible, and I always put my phone on the nightstand, face down. These videos are shot from across the room. There was a long pause. Sarah,
Maybe you should stay somewhere else for a few nights. Come stay with me and Jake. I wanted to. God, how I wanted to pack a bag and run to my sister's house in the suburbs, sleep on her couch, surrounded by family photos and the smell of her vanilla candles. But something stopped me. Pride, maybe. Or the creeping suspicion that running wouldn't solve anything. That night, I set up a test. I placed my phone on the dresser, positioned exactly where the mysterious camera angle would be, and hit record. Then I went to bed, leaving it running. When I woke up, the phone was dead, completely drained, even though it had been at 80% when I went to sleep. The video file was corrupted, showing nothing but static and a low rhythmic sound that might have been breathing. But TikTok had another video for me. This one was different. The angle was closer, like someone was leaning over my bed. I could see every detail of my sleeping face, the way my eyelids fluttered during REM sleep, the slight smile I apparently wore while dreaming. It should have been intimate, peaceful even. Instead, it felt violating, predatory. The video was captioned, "She dreams of us watching. Us." I screenshot the caption immediately, my hands shaking so badly I could barely tap the screen. But when I looked at the screenshot, the caption was gone. Just a blank space where the words had been. I started researching. Maybe this was happening to other people. Maybe it was some new form of hacking or a viral marketing campaign for a horror movie. I spent hours on Reddit, diving deep into paranormal forums and tech support threads. Nothing. No one else was experiencing anything like this. The fourth night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my desk chair, facing my bed, with every light in the apartment blazing. I kept my phone in my hand, refreshing TikTok every few minutes. If someone was in my apartment, if there was some explanation, I would catch them. At 3:17 a.m., the exact same time as the first video, my phone buzzed, a new TikTok notification. The video showed my empty bed, sheets still warm from my body heat, but I wasn't in it. Instead, there was a depression in the mattress, as if someone invisible was lying exactly where I usually slept. The covers rose and fell rhythmically, like breathing, and then, for just a moment at the very end of the video, I saw myself. Not sleeping this time, but sitting in my chair, exactly where I was, staring at my phone with wide, terrified eyes. The camera had somehow captured me watching the video of my empty bed, while I was watching the video of my empty bed. It was impossible. The phone was in my hands. There was no other camera, no other device. But there I was, watching myself watch myself in an endless loop of observation. The caption read, "She's learning." I threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor, the screen cracking in a spiderweb pattern. I grabbed my keys, not even bothering to put on shoes, and ran to my car. I drove to Emma's house going 20 over the speed limit, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Sarah, what the hell?" Emma opened her front door, squinting in the porch light. "It's almost 4 a.m. I collapsed into her arms, sobbing, trying to explain between gasps for air. She made me tea and listened to everything, her expression growing more concerned with each detail. "We're calling the police," she said finally, "and tell them what? That TikTok is showing me impossible videos of myself, that something is watching me sleep. They'll think I'm having a breakdown." But Emma was already dialing. The officers who came were kind but skeptical. They took a report, checked my apartment with flashlights and careful professionalism. No signs of forced entry, no hidden cameras, no evidence of anything unusual except a young woman who'd clearly been under too much stress. "Have you been sleeping enough?" one of them asked gently. "Sometimes sleep deprivation can cause hallucinations, make us see things that aren't there." I wanted to show them the videos, but my phone was still back at the apartment, screen shattered. Without proof, I sounded exactly like what they thought I was, someone who'd spent too much time online and not enough time sleeping. I stayed at Emma's for a week. Jake brought my phone back from the apartment, the screen repaired, everything seemingly normal. The TikTok videos were gone. My entire viewing history had been wiped clean, as if I'd never used the app at all. "Maybe it was a hack," Jake said, trying to be helpful. "Some kind of sophisticated malware. You should probably do a factory reset, change all your passwords." I did everything he suggested. New passwords, new security settings, even a new TikTok account. I felt safer at Emma's, surrounded by family, sleeping on a couch in the living room with no dark corners. But I couldn't stay there forever. When I finally went back to my apartment, everything looked exactly the same. Sunlight streamed through the windows, making everything appear normal and safe. I'd been paranoid, I told myself. Stressed from work, too much social media, not enough human connection. The mind plays tricks when it's tired and isolated. I lasted 2 weeks. The videos started again on a Tuesday night, not on TikTok this time, but sent directly to my phone number from an unknown contact.
Short clips, 10 to 15 seconds each, showing me going about my daily routine, me making coffee in the morning, me brushing my teeth, me changing clothes. The worst part wasn't that someone was watching me constantly. The worst part was that the videos showed things I didn't remember doing. In one clip, I was standing in my kitchen at 2 a.m., perfectly still, staring at the wall for 3 full minutes. I had no memory of getting up, no memory of standing there. But there I was, motionless as a statue, my eyes wide open and completely blank. In another, I was having a conversation with someone off camera. I could hear my voice clearly. I understand. I won't tell anyone. I'll be good. Who was I talking to? I live alone. I don't sleep talk. But there was my voice, compliant and strange, agreeing to terms I couldn't remember negotiating. The final video arrived last night. It showed me sitting exactly where I am right now, typing this story. But in the video, I wasn't alone. There were figures standing behind me, just at the edge of the frame, too blurred to make out clearly. Shadow people, my grandmother would have called them. The kind of presence you feel rather than see. As I typed in the video, words appeared on the screen that I wasn't typing. Words that I'm not typing now, but somehow know I will write. They wanted me to tell you this story. They wanted me to share it, to put it out into the world where others would see it, would read it, would invite them in through the simple act of believing. I can feel them watching me as I write this. Not just me, but you too, now that you've read this far. That's how it works, apparently. The story finds its way to people who need to hear it. People who spend too much time alone with their phones, scrolling through content in the dark. Check your viewing history. Check your recent notifications. Look carefully at the timestamp on this story. Is it the time you think it is? I thought I was sharing this as a warning, but now I understand the truth. This isn't a warning at all. It's an invitation. And if you're reading this at 3:17 a.m., if you're alone in your room with just the glow of your screen for company, then congratulations. You've just become part of the story. Now I have to ask you something, and I really want you to think about it. How many times have you fallen asleep to videos on your phone? How many times have you woken up to find your battery drained and no memory of what you were watching? What if those weren't just random videos helping you sleep? What if they were feeding on something much deeper? Sweet dreams tonight. Try not to think about who might be watching.